Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Dynamic Leaders, a leadership series by Rent Dynamics. I am your host, Katherine Spear, and today I spoke with Diana Norbury of Pillar Properties in Seattle. Diana is responsible for operations for about 2,000 units in their portfolio. She has over 19 years of experience in multifamily and has worked across a number of different markets throughout the US. She is also a certified property manager and in 2018 was awarded the CPM of the Year Award by IREM. So I'm excited for you to hear more from Diana today, and thank you so much for tuning in. Well, can we just start by telling our listeners a little bit more about you and your background and how you started in multifamily, how you got to where you are today?
Sure. Gosh, I think like a lot of people in multifamily, I kind of fell into it. I graduated from Georgia Tech, had a business degree and a minor in marketing, and I thought I was going to go into marketing research. But it was just one of those things when I graduated, I couldn't find work in that field. And I had a girlfriend that was in property management, and she asked me to help her out with her portfolio. And I just loved it right away. Every day is different. I found that all the business skills that I had attained in college really translated very well, and no 2 days are the same. So I worked for a single family owner for a bit, and then I worked for equity residential for a fair amount of time before I was all over the nation, to be honest with you. Worked my way up from assistant property manager into Senior Vice President of Operations today at Pillar Properties. We are a developer, owner, operator out of the Pacific Northwest. It's a pretty small family-owned outfit, just about 2,200 units. And so that's how I got here today.
Awesome. I didn't realize that you went to Georgia Tech.
I did. Yeah, I was a rambling wreck. Not an engineer, though.
So did you move away from Atlanta like right after you graduated then?
It was about 2 years. I moved to Orlando and then did kind of a 2-year stint there. And then I went to San Francisco and then Boston and finally ended up in Seattle. So I've kind of done like all four corners pretty much. And Seattle's been home. I've been here for just over a decade now. And I love it. Yeah.
That's great. Well, this series really began out of wanting to share stories for Women's History Month. So I would love to hear from you if there have been any leaders that you've worked with who have really had an impact on you as a woman, whether or not they are women themselves. And then also just about your experience working with other women in this industry and how you have worked to kind of lift them up as they go through their careers as well.
Absolutely. I would say during my time at Equity Residential, I had an incredible regional manager. Her name is Vivian McHenry. I'm still close with her today. Was just like a force of nature. She was someone that when she walks in a room, she commands your presence, approachable, but just so poised. Really a great business leader, someone that, naturally commands respect. And she kind of, I never thought at the time, I was like, I want to be Vivian when I grow up, right? I never thought that I would be where I am today. And I think I take a lot of what I do from someone like her, right? In this industry specifically, I found that at the tippy top, a lot of times you find yourself in a room filled with older white men. And that's not a dig at them. That's not their fault. There's also a lot of great men that I have learned from as well, but it can be intimidating for sure. And so she was someone that I found I really was able to find my voice from. And I found that there was no difference when she was in the room with a lot of other white men, as it were. She garnered equal respect. And that was something that I tried to model my own behavior after.
So important to have those mentors and people that you can model and look up to. So I'm glad that you had someone who cheered for you and encouraged you along the way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Anything that you would like to note about some of the team that you've worked with, that you've helped to grow and encouraged?
For sure. Yeah. I think I've been in this industry now for 20 years, and I can think of in every state that I've been in, every company that I've been in, there has always been at least one or two individuals that I have nurtured, that is either a direct report of mine or a property manager on site that's a rock star, that not only have I helped them kind of grow in their path, but they've taught me something, right? We all have different skills. We're all don't we all do things differently, right? And a lot of times we play this game of comparison. It's like, if I'm like so and so, I will be successful. But the fact of the matter is, we're not ever going to be like another person, right? And
Right.
so I think in terms of all these different stories or people that I'd like to recognize, I think the number one thing I like to kind of drive home is the ability to foster whatever it is that makes a particular person strong or individual, right? Is if you can foster that thing, the path ahead of them can turn into so many great things. And so, really, something specific to Pillar that I enjoy, and I know I'm kind of skipping all over the place in
No,
this
I love
story,
it.
is because we're so small and we've been growing over time, we have this opportunity to not necessarily be or copy the same linear path that a lot of property management companies do in terms of roles, right? You have your assistant property manager and then your property manager and then your regional manager. Here, we've kind of taken, so for example, I have one team member that I work with that just happened to be very good at specific things. And rather than just saying like, oh, well, the next role for you is X, Y, and Z, we made a role that was specific to them and the things that they did well that drove our company's success. And I know that's not always possible at every single company, but I think
Yeah.
you can do the same thing when you are coaching someone, right? Is really working with them instead of trying to push them into a particular mold or ideal.
I think that's so wise. And something that you said that I really loved was just talking about using your strengths and not trying to fit yourself into a mold that works for someone else. Um, I,
Absolutely.
I recently had a conversation with a friend who said that when they were a kid, their mom put them and their sibling through some like personality profiling and understanding where their strengths were so that they would know from the time they were a kid what they were really strong in. And not to say that you can't learn new skills or that those don't change throughout your life, but I thought that was really interesting for a mom to want to do
Yeah,
that for her kids when they're young, to be able to understand these are the things that I'm really strong at naturally, so that if you if you have something that's maybe not something you have the skills of, that you just know this is something I'm going to have to work at a lot harder.
absolutely. Yeah, and I was
Yeah.
going to say sometimes that's a tough lesson to learn too. I mean, going back to my own individual story, I went to Georgia Tech to be an engineer, and that did not work out for me. And sometimes it's hard when you do compare yourself to others, and you think that success is a certain thing, and you have to learn that lesson that your success might not always look like somebody else's, and really just embracing what you're good at. Um, that is where like true satisfaction and happiness and success is derived from. And I think those are the best, like, um, those are the best stories for me, especially when it comes to, I'm smiling because I'm thinking about certain team members where you're like, oh, this person's not going to make it, right? Like they're not good at whatever role that you put them into. And a lot of times that's a leader's fault, right? Because they didn't do their best to recognize what somebody is good at and change the way that you work with them or model things for them so that they can be successful. And I'm thinking about a particular person at a property that we had that we just didn't think they were going to make it. We were like, oh, maybe they're not a good fit at Pillar. Maybe this role isn't right for them. And the fact of the matter was, we weren't doing a good job at coaching them and helping them really see what they were good at. Now, this is one of our top performers. So I think, coming back to that um, kind of story around what are you good at and how do you put that out into the world, that's like a
Yeah,
perfect example of it.
I love that. Would love to also hear about anything that's going on at Pillar this year that you're really excited about right now. And then maybe also something personally that you're excited about in your life, whether that's a new skill you're developing or a
Sure.
project or
Yeah.
something that's. that's got
Uh,
you
Great
excited?
question. So we just have a lease up that just opened in February of this year down in Tacoma, and that's a new
Oh,
submarket for
okay.
us. And I'm not gonna lie, it's been a challenging start to the lease up. I wish I could tell you it's been like super successful, but 2023 has proven to be, a little bit softer of a year. Everybody's focusing on retention,
Yeah.
but it is a beautiful project. It's just starting to pick up now. I really love the team that we have down there. They're pumped, just to do the best that they can. So that's been a big focus of ours, as well as I think right now this year too. Last year was a year where we got to start piloting a bunch of prop tech again and kind of post COVID get back out into the world and say like how can we be pioneers of certain things. And so we started piloting a bunch of products and implementing more kind of centralization products that are out there. And this year we're taking a step back a little bit and saying, okay, how do we look at all of these things and measure truly what KPIs can we look at to say, has this been improving our efficiency? Has this been leading to a better either team member or resident experience? So it's been cool to kind of take a step back and say, all right, what have we achieved over the last year? And then what should we focus on as we go kind of into the end of the year and into 2024? So I'd say that's what's happening in the pillar world right now is a little bit of a reassessment of everything that's out there. Personally, what have I done that's exciting? I always set goals for myself at the beginning of the year. And one of my goals, which is kind of embarrassing because I should already do this quite well. I'm half Puerto Rican. I grew up speaking Spanish as a kid. And when we were young, we were actually really encouraged to speak English in school because our parents wanted us to, just be like the rest of the kids and speak English, right? And so my goal this year has been to become fluent in Spanish again. So
Oh,
uh,
cool.
when I call home, I try to talk to my mom in Spanish, and I've been doing my Duolingo and things like that. And it is really hard. It's so frustrating to try and speak conversationally when you feel like you're talking like a 5-year-old, right? You're just like,
Yeah.
forget how to conjugate verbs and you forget vocabulary. And so that's been a big goal of mine personally. And aside from that, I'm trying to think of anything else fun that is happening in my world. Not too much. This like snowboarding season is ending. Spent about like 20 days on the mountain this year, which is a decent amount, and just trying to get to new hills. So that's kind of what I've
Nice.
been up to recently.
My little lazy hack with languages. I don't know
Oh
if
yeah, tell me, lay it on me.
so I used to speak French pretty fluently
Yeah,
and I've really lost it and had a similar experience that you described last year when I went
so
back
bad.
there where I was like in a taxi and I'm like, "Oh my God, I can't even like talk to this
Yeah,
driver to
ah,
explain where I'm going," or it was humbling. So I tried to use Duolingo and I've tried Babbel and some of the other
yeah.
apps and I just I
They're not
found
great.
that like they're not the best
Not
and
great. Yeah.
also I like to be away from my phone when I'm really focused on something and to be on it it's just like I don't know, distracting I think. But I found a couple of French TV shows that I like.
Ah,
And also you can change like in Netflix, you can change the language um on
what a great idea.
a
I
lot
love
of
it.
shows,
Yeah.
especially like if it's a familiar show that you've watched a lot, like Friends for me, I've seen all the episodes a billion times. So I can switch it into French and it's dubbed, so it's a little bit weird, but then you can see and hear when you know what they're saying. So it's kind of helpful in a way that you're not watching a show that was originally in that language where they're
Love it.
talking really fast and you're like, oh my God, what is
Next,
happening?
next time I see you, I'll let you know how that's going. That's a great idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I used to
Yeah.
love my Spanish telenovelas, so maybe I have
Oh,
to get
yes.
back into that. Yeah.
Also, total side note, but Jane the Virgin, if you liked telenovelas, I thought was so cute. Kind of
Okay.
corny, but
Yeah.
like I liked it. The last question is kind of a fun one.
Sure.
And I would love to know what song for you will brighten your day no matter where you are when you hear it.
Oh my gosh, this is such a difficult question. Well, I'm a huge Beastie Boys fan, so anytime I
Oh,
hear the song Intergalactic, I would say that always does it for me. And there's
I
probably
love
a
that.
million others, but that's the one that I can think of like right off the bat, like
That's
every
the
time.
first
I'm
one
like,
that came to mind, so I
yeah,
love
I was like, okay, every time I hear this, I would like get down for sure. So
Great.
thank
Well, this has been so fun, Diana. Thank you for
you.
joining me. Any
Absolutely.
anything else that you'd like to share before we wrap up?
I don't think so. I'm just grateful for the time. I'm honored to be here and speaking with you today. So it's been a lot of fun. Thanks a lot.
It has. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course.